Welcome to the Hangar Z podcast, brought to you by Vertical Helicast in partnership with Vertical Valor magazine. This three-part series of the Hangar Z podcast was recorded on location in Texas at the McKinney Air Center as part of the 2025 Blades of Valor Road Tour.
Bad guy is shot multiple times, but he is the 1%er that was not going to jail and was going to kill as many cops as he could before he died. And so he goes back around, kind of gets his bearings again, and then re-engages, coming back out, screaming profanities, what I got from the K9 team.
This year, our journey takes us to 4 agencies across 4 states, showcasing their exceptional work through print, video, and right here in the podcast. The Blades of Valor Tour wouldn't be possible without the support of Airbus and must-see flight suits. We also have to thank Ken and Connie Pyatt from Sky Helicopters for their hospitality and for making the air-to-air photo flight possible. If you're in the Garland area looking for flight training or an aerial tour of the Dallas Metroplex, make sure you look to Sky Helicopters. For more information, go to skyhelicopters.com. The Texas Department of Public Safety Aircraft Operations Division has an outstanding program supporting multi-mission public safety aviation operations throughout the great state of Texas. During this conversation, we're privileged to speak with Texas DPS Assistant Chief Marcus Tomerlin, Captain Saben Emery, and Lieutenant Clay Lacey. The conversations we have highlight the importance of solid leadership and a great unit culture, the value of internal and external training, and the crucial role of internal marketing, such as detailed activity reports and video documentation, which showcase the agency's achievements, justify operations, and secure funding for the aircraft division. For more about our visit to Texas DPS, be sure to check out the Brent Bundy article in Vertical Valor and check out the incredible video footage captured by Lloyd Horgan on the Vertical Magazine YouTube channel. Thank you to our sponsors, BLR Aerospace, Wysong Enterprises, and Garmin.
Welcome to the Hangar Z podcast, brought to you by Vertical Helicasts. The Hangar Z podcast is the first and only podcast dedicated to promoting and exploring the personnel and equipment behind the missions in public safety aviation.
Still southbound, skidding to a stop. Stand by here. Looks like they're getting ready to bail. Heads up, guys, bailing. Okay, the guy, he's running through the house, jumping the fence, threw the shotgun, threw something out. Grabbing the shotgun. Don't go over that fence. Don't go over that fence. Grab the shotgun again. He is armed. Stay there. Hold your position.
It's time for your Heli Life giveaway buzzword. Listen up and remember this word because you'll need it to enter for a chance to win exclusive Heli Life gear. Ready? This episode's buzzword is hoist. Visit contest.verticalhelicasts.com to enter the buzzword.
Bad guy is shot multiple times, but he is the 1%er that was not going to jail and was going to kill as many cops as he could before he died. And so he goes back around, kind of gets his bearings again, and then re-engages, coming back out, screaming profanities, what I got from the K9 team, and then he dies on a pistol with the slide lock back, just how he wanted to. And the other guy jumps the fence into the front, and as the gunfight's raging in the backyard, the 2 officers in the front left tried to converge on that bad guy, and he was able to get back in the neighbor's backyard with the gunfight raging through the fence beside him, and was able to run away, jump another fence, get underneath a porch on another residence, and hide out. And at that point, like, everything hit me. What in my mind, what I had just did. I just did that. I wanted to put out, like, immediately, like, hey guys, please let me know how everybody's doing, because at the time, obviously my camera, my monitor, everything's focused on this runner. I had him, the one that was the shooter. I watched him go down, so I felt good about him. I let him go, but now I had this runner, and I couldn't focus on all the officers that had just gotten that engagement. So immediately tried to keep everybody calm, like, please sound off. How are your officers? I've got this guy. We're not going to worry about him right now. Everybody kind of check yourself. And then we were able to, everybody take a break. We actually were able to go. We had to refuel at some point. We came back, had a full SWAT team around the whole house, robot, everything, and elicited a response from that guy and got him out and got him in custody. So,
jeez. Think about the emotions, how high those emotions were on the ground after that engagement.
Well, and the camera framework was amazing. So he's framed up from a TFO training perspective, his shooting environment with active rounds going off. but the zoom has worked and the positioning of that incident enough where we can also watch number 3. And so once we're working, 3's still in the picture due to the camera work. When 2 goes down with a headshot there by that fence, we kind of transition there. There's a lot of crews that would have sucked in on that gunfight, narrow field of view, and then maybe lost number 3. And number 3 moved 3 to 4 houses, and he got underneath a patio that had lattice work all the way around it and completely out of view of the camera. So if the air crew didn't have that individual without a strong dog team that could go work that odor from under the porch, FLIR's line of sight. So it's really, really good work.
Yeah, incredible. In addition to the camera work, your job as a TFO to ensure everybody's calm, using your tone of voice to control what's happening on the ground. Well done, because I can only imagine everyone on the ground's, an OAS just happened. Everyone's thinking all kinds of different stuff, and you took your opportunity as a TFO, said, hey, reset.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Jack, I know you've got a ton of thoughts here, so I'm gonna pass this off to you.
My first thought is, Saben, do you ever hop in that left seat today?
Oh, yeah.
You do, don't
Clay
you?
and I slide over there all the time. I missed that job more than anything.
I was predicting that answer because
Yeah.
I could hear it in your voice and your passion for what you were doing there, and in your background. That, boy, that's a waste if you're not getting to still play over there now and then, at least occasionally. Incredible. That is a great example, and there are many of them around the world, but in this country, that show the value of air assets and canine and SWAT and patrol working together. But that air asset was really key there in the safety. And the thing one of the things, there's about 50 things that you said that I loved. But one of the things that I loved is that you stop things.
Yeah.
And there are TFOs, and you've seen them, that are hesitant to stop people, or to just, they don't want to take control because they think they're crossing a line or something. And what I know I have, and I know you do, and I've told them is, no, that's your job. If you see something and tactically, this is a good time to take a breath and to reevaluate, or evaluate initially what we have before we go bolting into a backyard. We need to do it. And the TFO has a huge role in that. That was probably one of the coolest things. And that was right in the beginning. And it just got better and better and better from there. But that's a good one.
Well,
that's a good one.
And something else, I call it the 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon, but whatever it is, this is the 7 degrees of Jack Shanley. The canine work and those, it's your stuff. The class you taught 20 years ago from an experienced LAPD dog handler, what do you expect out of the air crew? What's valuable? I soaked that up. I tried to apply it, and then here's somebody you had never even met that's utilizing those techniques to catch bad guys. So it's really important that we continue to train and pass that information along.
And that makes me feel good, obviously. And we've talked about that before, about how that trickles down and how, you learn something and then you pass it on to others, and how eventually your whole unit knows it and it benefits them at some point. I will just tell you that the time in canine, that was valuable to me. It was really valuable to me. I looked at things in a different perspective than another outstanding TFO next to me, on the same watch, and another helicopter. They didn't look at things exactly the same as I did because of that 5 years of experience. I learned things that I would have never known about bad guys and about tactics, and about, canines aren't going to be upset if you tell them to slow down or stop for a second. I valued that. I was lucky. I had a helicopter over me 95% of the time on canine searches. I was spoiled. And there were TFOs, outstanding TFOs, that did that to me. So, it's good to just, you learn some stuff, but you got to spread the word. And, I made that a priority in my life, as you did. And it benefits a lot of people. You based your work that night on your patrol experience in Dallas, and on your experience as a young TFO. I mean, you take everything in, and you take it into this one job that's really cool and really unique, and you just got to run with it and know that you can take charge without taking charge. And
I'd like to comment on something else with that we do that I think's phenomenal in our organization. So the chief pilot all the way down, you promote inside. There's not a promotion that makes you go back out to the street. So what's my point in that? These men sitting here have been in the mix. They've been in that left seat. They've been doing the job. And I find that at some units, especially that are civil service governed, you promote out of the unit, you spend some time back in highway patrol or wherever you are and work your way back to aircraft. And so in the meantime, you might have a supervisor in aircraft that has never been with the aircraft division. They don't know anything about it. They're a brand new supervisor, and they're trying to do that. These guys, I mean, Saben can go out there. Mark can go as assistant chief pilot and kill it, TFOing right now.
That's really
cool. You don't have that. That's not. I think y'all will agree. That's not always the case across.
That's where you're talking. You were describing my department. You want to promote to sergeant, bye. I mean, you're out of there. And if you want to come back, you have to fight back. And if you want to fight back, you better time it right, because there may be no retirements in a sergeant position that you can even come back. And we lose that. We lose all that experience and all the value in them. For what? For a rule. Well, yeah, this is the rule, And it's the same thing in K-9. It's the same thing in SWAT. It's the same thing in bomb squad. It's the same thing in a detective position. This detective has a lot of experience in this area, but now they promote to a higher detective. Oh, you can't stay there. Why do we do that? And more agencies are getting away from it. And we talk about it regularly. I mean, when it comes up, that we say, good. It's good that you got to stay there. That's Mark, really cool.
Mark, do you have some ideas about how you build that in an organization? Let's take the legal side of it out of it, where they're civil service and they have to take a test and promote. What are your thoughts on that? How would an agency maybe transition to internal only? You think you need to be a certain size? That helps. We got a bunch of people, or what are your thoughts?
I don't know a lot about civil service. I've never been involved in any civil service organization. I don't know the fix. My experiences with Dallas PD. They've lost some good people in their unit because they wanted to promote. I don't. You've got to change your whole structure. I feel like in the organization as well as the aircraft division. Even us were not perfect. I was hesitant. I always want what's best for the employee and their career and their advancement, but it was hesitant making Clay a pilot or making Saben a pilot, because I knew those were probably the two of my favorite TFOs to fly with, and I didn't want to have to do the TFO job from the right seat, and I knew I absolutely would not have to with those guys. So I feel like we have a great structure, but at the same time, we're still robbing from Peter to pay Paul on many of our promotions. But I still, even this week at Verticon, I was talking to an agency where I feel like their structure is, I don't know how they even came up with it. And again, I've never experienced another structure, chain of command. I feel like ours has been great, but man, it really makes me appreciate what we've got when I do get in deep conversation with some of these other agencies. That you've got cops turning wrenches, and you've got a civilian that's director of operations, or you've got a lieutenant chief pilot who answers to a major, and it works for them. We've talked about Fort Worth PD having civilian pilots with police officer, tactical flight officers, and it's weird to us, but they make it work. They're a good agency. I don't know how I could change, how you would change another agency. I feel like I really had to immerse myself in their operation to even give advice. But I would always say you don't want to promote a good employee out of the division just for a rank. Create a position if you have to. But if Clay was just adamant about making a captain position today, the last thing I would do is send him to highway patrol.
Can you talk about some of the tools you might use to justify keeping someone internal from a promotion versus sending them out? Because I think that's what people find is, Clay's in line to be captain, but if he gets promoted to captain, he's out. So how can an agency leverage that?
It's the magic question.
I don't know. Well, with us, if you want to promote to captain, if Clay decides right this second he wants to be a captain in the aircraft division, man, Clay, I got good news for you, brother, because May 31st, I got 2 vacancies coming open, and luckily for you, one's in El Paso and one's Lubbock. So where do you want to move your family to? Yeah. It ain't happening. So that's our problem, and that's why we keep good pilots in stations, is because they don't want to promote to El Paso or McAllen. It's not great. I'm in the position I'm in just because of timing, because I didn't get married until I was 37 years old, and I didn't have kids till I was almost 40. So I moved all around the state until now. So I think we have a great chain of command and a great organizational structure, but I don't know. You've got to have sacrifices. There's going to be sacrifices in every employee or every organization if you want to retain every good employee and promote every good employee.
Thank you to our sponsor, Wysong Enterprises. Wysong Enterprises offers specialty rotorcraft completion facility, focusing on solutions and installs for customers in various industries, including EMS, law enforcement, energy utility, forestry, tourism, security, and corporate applications across major OEM platforms. Visit us at wysongusa.com.
And John, something to add on to what Mark's talking about, a cultural item too that creates value when you're making this argument is this. You're not kidding. I can go get an ATP, CFII, everything, and the state pays for it, pay for the training, pays for the ratings. So I think I'm somewhere, I used to keep up with it around 16,000, 17,000 hours of flying with DPS over 23, 25 years. How much money have they invested in me? We go to the factory every year. We go to Randy's place at Helicopter Institute. There's a ton of money that Mark has spent on us. And I think there may be, if it ever came up as an argument, that might be some leverage, that, look, we got $750,000 just in training in this individual. Now, some organizations may say, who cares? We don't care about that. But I'm a big fan of letting organizations, everyone should be working on a rating. Everyone kind of keep doing that because we all get better. And Mark and Chief Holland are legacy leaders that continue with that. There's always everyone in our office is an instructor. So we can jump in the left seat and teach, and it's not hard to take, because people are like, how do you take these new TFOs with no time and get them their ratings? Because they're flying with us. When we're on a mission and things get slow, we go start training them, and they learn shallow approaches to run on landings as a TFO. We're all going to be at the same crash site, right? So it's great that the TFO knows those things, but the only way we can do that is I'm a CFI with instructor orders, so I'm allowed to give that training. And so it's another. I didn't mean to take us on a side note, but having that culture of that really also builds up your argument.
Yeah. I think what happens is ultimately, because most agencies, if you promote, you're out, you have a ton of folks who just never have an opportunity to promote anymore. Otherwise, they're gone. Look at the commander. And
with aircraft, say Saben wanted to be a major, his only option is to do it in aircraft, or he goes back to Highway Patrol Sergeant, which is where he came from. So if a major spot never comes open for Saben and he's gung-ho, that's his only route to make major. So it's another, I don't know if it's a flaw or not, but that's, it's not perfect, as good as I think ours is. But it was also, like Clay mentioned, the amount of money we spent on training our pilots. And, several years ago, we all got bumped up a rank and that was one of the main reasons. We are spending so much of our funds on training and making these guys as great. Well, now the airlines come knocking. And at the time, we had lost a couple people. So it was a perfect, it was a window of opportunity to say, hey, we better do something. And we did that, and that's great.
Yeah. Well, thanks for spending time on that. It's another one of the side conversations I enjoy. My agency, same thing, trying to fit a square peg in a round hole, and it just doesn't work when it comes to promotions. And again, it goes back to leadership and losing good people within your organization and in aviation because they've decided to promote. In a perfect world, we'd figure out a way to keep people in and just continue that career progression as they stay through those promotions. But it's so hard. And
it transcends selection. Most air units pick their people the way K-9 does, the way SWAT does, the way the Detective Bureau does. They have this cookie-cutter department policy that this is how we select our people versus what I think we do well is we really look for people that have the aptitude towards learning the job. We front-load the selection process for tactical flight officer with money and time to do schools and fly scenarios to let that flesh out. That is very different from the way the rest of the department does things. And they are given that latitude to do it. And when we have 10 or 15 candidates come to a location, aircraft pays their travel, their per diem to be there 5 days, all that, while they're going through this assessment and selection. So our high leadership in our organization has given Mark and Stacy the latitude to you pick your people how you think you need to pick your people. Now, there are processes about a promotion that you have to follow once it's a promotion, but for us, TFO is not necessarily a promotion. It's a lateral move, silver badge, trooper 2, whatever it is. So that's another side effect of having that latitude.
Yeah. It's a promotional process first and a selection process. But, I send other agencies all the time our TFO selection process that are starting an aviation unit maybe starting to get into the TFO realm. Just a couple of weeks ago, I was with LSP, and I think they're starting to hire some TFOs, and they're reaching out for the process. And it's like, I'm going to send you all the stuff, but I'd highly recommend you coming out and seeing how we do it, because it is one of probably the highest turnover rate positions, maybe in the department, maybe in airborne law enforcement, but there's a lot of characteristics you're looking for, and at the end of the day, if you don't get along with somebody, you don't want to sit in the cockpit next to them.
For 70 to 80% didn't make it, and since we've done this process, that number's down around 40. So the proof's in the pudding. Front-loading selection with picking the right people will help with losing people, and they've done it really well. And I think a lot of our people, the 40%, is because what happens a lot in our organization, TFO opening in El Paso, I'm from Dallas, honey, I'm going to go out there and buy a trailer, and I'll be out there for a year or two, but I'll come home. You and the babies will be okay. They go out there, and then 6 months into that, it's a challenge, and they have to I can't do this. I can't be away from my family. Yeah. So I think that's a lot of our attrition is from things like that.
Yeah, I can see that. Well, Mark, going back to you, we've gone now an hour and 15, and we haven't even dug into you and kind of how you wound up here. Can you give us a little bit of insight? You talked about, all I did as a kid was cut grass and go to school, but can you give us some insight on where you grew up and some of your motivations to get into law enforcement and later aviation?
Yeah, so I grew up small town, northeast Texas, little town called Quitman, and born and raised out in the sticks. And my dad passed away when I was 12. My mom kind of did a lot of work for him with his company, and when he passed away, she realized it was time to go to work to support this little 12-year-old boy she had to raise. And anyway, she ended up being a judge out there for 20 years, and throughout my high school careers, I met a lot of state troopers, and after school they were up at her office, and when I got to college, I'd come out and ride out with a few of them, and that was my, they back in the day, they were some bad dudes, and I liked the cowboy hat and the black and white cars, and so I knew DPS. That I figured out that's where I was headed, and my dad was a pilot. He was a commercial pilot for his company, so I was kind of immersed in the aviation world with him in my early years. And so I went to UNT, University of North Texas, up in Denton, and of course when I started I was in a business major, and I had one class that it wasn't happening, so I dropped that class, changed my major to criminal justice, and that was the route. And the recruiter I was talking with at the time up here in North Texas, he's like, man, we got a class coming up in March, and I think that's going to be your entrance. I mean, you're already through the process. Well, I wasn't supposed to graduate until May. So that prior year, I hammered down and got the hours and took the summer classes so I could graduate in December, have a couple months off, and then go to the March Academy. And you know, I didn't even, when I became a DPS, you know, I want to be Texas Ranger, because that's the premier law enforcement unit in the country. And so that was my goal. And, you know, as soon as I got on Highway Patrol, I was a scuba diver, and I joined the DPS dive recovery team. Loved it. I mean, it was a great experience, but it was during the 2005 hurricanes, Katrina and Rita, that hit Houston. I was deployed down there, and since I was a diver, they thought it was best for me to be assigned to one of the air units to be a recovery swimmer or rescue, you know, whatever. That was very our long line rescue program back in those days was just kind of you're gonna figure it out as you go, and that's kind of what we were doing. But that is when I realized that we had an aircraft division. I think they probably came and talked to my academy at some point, but, you know, you don't remember that stuff. And I was like, man, this is pretty nice. These guys are flying back to another city and going to spend the night in a hotel room, and I'm sitting here in the back of my patrol car and sleeping on an auditorium couch in this hurricane with no power. And that was 2005. And January of 2006, I made the decision I'm going to get my private pilot's license. So I took a month off, got the rating, and built some time over the next couple of years. Then 2008, I took the TFO job in Houston. Yeah.
Pretty cool when you look back. You know?
Man, timing is everything.
Yeah. I remember, you know, Mark was a young diver, and he would always volunteer off duty or whatever. He said, if y'all, we line of thunder, you know, North Texas, it's a line of thunderstorms, flash flooding, comes up, goes down. But he told us all the time as a young trooper and diver, I'll always go help you. So if you need a swimmer, if you need whatever, and I always remember Mark, every time we'd get storms like that, he'd be the first one to our hangar, and I'd look in the back at him, because we had nothing governing this. I don't know how we didn't kill ourselves.
I know.
Over and over and over. But he's had his own system back there and way he's hooking in and has his equipment ready, and I have fond memories of a younger Mark coming out and flying with us.
Yeah. Well, this year is the 20th anniversary of Katrina, and we talked a little bit about with Randy Rawls. He's talking about writing a book about his experience and looking back on that. And I think that had a profound impact on our community because of the good work that was done there. Helicopters were a huge part of the mobilization and the rescue efforts that took place there. Can you talk about your experience there and kind of what you saw and, you know?
It's a blur. There's a lot of stuff, a lot of changes, and, you know, I was on the dive team, and I was just assigned at the last minute to an air crew, and there was a lot of stuff going on that I had no idea what I was doing. But, you know, I recall the chief telling us to stage just outside of Houston. When the storm passes through, we're going to come in right behind it. And the pilot I was with was a pretty senior pilot at the time and kind of no fear. And I don't know that we were necessarily all the way behind the storm from what I remember. You know, I was like, where's the nearest bag that I can throw up in? Because we were in a washing machine, and I don't know that we're behind the storm right now. I feel like we're in it. But, you know, I don't know that my crew did, we didn't do any rescues. You know, we were just kind of a standby waiting to assist. But that was when we realized that we did have looting patrols. And, you know, I did kind of see from the back seat as a swimmer how that went down, and that carried on to Ike, and that was our big kind of our biggest mission back then, because we weren't hoist equipped at that time, and we were very, I think, immature when it came to short haul long lining. You know, I don't recall us we trained every once in a while, but we weren't professional subject matter experts in doing that stuff back then. So we were still a criminal law enforcement aspect of that response. And then shortly later, when we started equipping the A-Stars with hoist and we got our 145, is when we became significantly better and more able to respond to, rescue situations.
Going back to your guys' kind of progressive nature as an agency, what I love is you guys now train with SR3. I think you guys are always trying to get better. Can you talk about the experience with SR3 and how that's changed your guys' response and capabilities?
Thank you to our sponsor, BLR Aerospace. BLR Aerospace's revolutionary fast fin system improves performance and enhances safety across various helicopter platforms. This cutting-edge aftermarket solution improves tail rotor effectiveness, stability, and payload capacity while reducing fuel consumption and pilot fatigue. Trusted globally, FastFin delivers unmatched control, efficiency, and reliabilities for diverse helicopter operations. Learn more at blraerospace.com.
Once we decided we were going to go in the hoist search and rescue mission, we were all in, as we are with anything we want to do. And we had a couple guys that we brought on that set up training curriculum. We set up policy, procedure. We got with the Coast Guard, got with some other agencies, and it felt like we had a great program. And we did. We did have a great program. And he had a couple guys retire and a couple new ideas come through about, it may be time for us to have a secondary look on our program, someone from the outside to show us, we don't know what we don't know, which is the SR3, slogan. And it hit home because as great as we thought we were, we still had some of that ancestral training scars where it was an idea. We thought it was great, but we didn't have anybody else to show us anything otherwise. And when we brought SR3 in, they made us a lot better. And not just hoisting. Pilot. They bring a crew and they sit a pilot up there with us. They got a crew chief in the back and then a swimmer to show the swimmer how to do stuff on the ground. And it was a great improvement. We rewrote some policies. We made some changes in the gear we use, and just our overall operation. The guys have loved getting the outside training, and I don't know how many times we've used them so far. I would probably over 10. We probably tripled our geographical footprint as far as stations that are able to hoist, because before SR3, it was Austin, San Antonio, and a little bit of Houston. And now every station in the state has a hoist-equipped crew and a hoist-equipped helicopter to go respond. It's not just hurricanes. We have, Lubbock is injured hikers, and, out in the desert, in the Alpine, it's their rock climbing mountains and dehydration and broken legs. And, they're doing hoist all the time, whereas, Dallas, Austin, San Antonio, Houston, we're waiting for a hurricane, waiting for a flood. But it's been a huge improvement to our program, and it's just showed us that, as good as we think we are, there are subject matter experts out there that, especially in these 1%, jobs, missions, like hoisting, it's less than 1% for us. It's fraction of a percent of what we do. We should probably at least ask some subject matter experts out in the industry of how they do it. And it was an eye-opening experience for us, but it was a great decision.
Yeah, I'd love on the multi-mission side, because like you said, the infrequency of it creates a lot of opportunity for an issue to arise, I believe, to bring someone, whether it's SR3 or another company in, to look at your program and evaluate it. Like, hey, we thought about this, or why are you doing that? I think that's awesome. And it speaks to you guys as leaders to see the importance of that and not just be like, oh, we've been operating like this for this long and nothing's happened. So why should I spend money to bring someone out here? Well, that's why. What you just talked about is the reason why you do that. So I'd love that. Going back to you and kind of your career development. So you come in and you get to the academy, you go to the road. What happens from there? Can you kind of walk us through your career development?
After Highway Patrol, I was, through a selection process of the tactical flight officers, and that was kind of run by Clay back in the day. He'd proved the point to the leadership that this is what we got to have if we're going to be successful in a law enforcement aircraft division. And so I went to Houston, and January of 2008, and what I did my first several months in Houston was sit out in the hangar watching TV, listen to this portable radio, And all my pilots were up on the second, third floor of the regional office, and I'm just sitting there waiting for a call. So, like I said earlier about people wearing suits to the hangar and very responsive division, well, everybody was like that except for Dallas at the time. So you had these 5 gung-ho TFOs that went out throughout the state wanting to make a difference and carry their momentum from highway patrol into aircraft operation, and it was difficult. Like, there was a time that I'm ready to go back to highway patrol. This ain't for me. I moved to Houston, and this is boring, and nothing's happening. And you know, it took me going to some units and some local agencies. In Jersey Village was one of them, small town outside of Houston. I said, man, can y'all help me with this? Is there anything we can help y'all with? Just do something. I don't care if it's accident photos, but I got to have a reason to fly. And I had a pilot there, a couple of them, that were ready to do something different. And, you know, we finally got the Houston area going. And that was the same with Laredo, McAllen, Austin, San Antonio at the time. But it was difficult. And I did that for a year and a half in Houston and loved it. Probably two of the most memorable experiences I had as a TFO, besides Clay, the initial TFO school that I went to, when I saw Clay pull a bad guy out of a trash can during one of our scenarios. We diverted, and you know, I was in the back seat, and Clay, we searching. I'm going, oh, this is great, this is a real deal. And then Clay finds this dude in a Rubbermaid trash can container, and this was 2008, and you know, the cameras weren't what they are today, and I thought that was the coolest thing ever, and I'll never forget it. And you know, a couple other calls. We responded to a PHI medical helicopter that was responding. It was transporting a patient, foggy morning, and we got called out to look for it at 4 a.m. And you know, I'm ready to go. I don't care what the weather is, because you know, I'm brand new pilot, helicopter world new, and I'm just ready to go. And my pilot's, we're gonna wait because I have a feeling what we're going to look for. Well, it was foggy, helicopter scud running, and we're looking over the Sam Houston National Forest. And when we get overhead, man, this is an ocean of trees. It is an ocean of trees. You can't see anything but 100-foot pine trees for as far as you can see. And I'm just thinking we're going to see, it's just going to pop out at us. We searched a long time, and we just got a glimpse of a little red rotor blade. And, you know, we landed, we walked to the scene, and that, I'm telling you, that was, for a non-helicopter pilot at the time, you know, that is a lesson that I will always remember that I unfortunately learned from another crew. But it was one of the first weather events that I'll never forget. The other one is, go ahead.
Well, I'm just curious, Clay, you find people in trash cans?
We do. So this is an internal. It's an
ongoing joke.
It's an internal joke. It's a key component to our classes, both of us. But we've had some people in the industry like, you're crazy. Like, what are you talking about? They don't get in trash cans. And so Jack and I always laugh, whether you're in, you know, southern Los Angeles or Garland, Texas, they like to get in
or
the
anywhere
cans.
else on the planet.
Yeah. So it's an internal. It's funny you told that story.
Yeah.
It is funny because we both hear it, you know, and we're. There's disbelievers out there, you know, and we come across them more often than maybe the average cop, you know, and the trash can thing comes up regularly. So the last time we recorded with Clay, we joked about this, and outside the picture, and you said, "Oh, there's somebody here at my station."
Yeah.
That got 3 in the past 4 nights in trash cans.
Three in the past 4 nights. He's here somewhere.
Yeah, and
Bobby Maker.
And yet there's people that say to both of us, people, they don't hide in trash cans. And it's insane because that's one of the top hiding spots worldwide. I mean, worldwide. And the FLIR, even an older FLIR,
I know.
is available to get that. The other thing that popped into my mind is how often I've heard Clay video stories about trash cans from others, including right down the road here. Clint Allen is a mutual friend, Lieutenant Allen at Plano. I was out doing some training with them, and one of their canine guys comes up to me and says, "Hey, can I show you a really cool canine FLIR find?" I said, "Sure." He said, "Yeah, this here's Clay Lacey doing this." And he shows me, and I'm going, Yeah, I know him.
I trained that guy.
I know him. You know, so you know, it's just funny how in our world, you know, how it comes around, but the trash can thing, and then the Clay Lacey thing. I mean, that could have been anybody, but no, he shows me a video that he's really proud of because it was his dog, but his dog got directed in that area from this guy, you know, and somebody who I know, you know, and it just made me laugh. And they appreciated you so much.
It was magic in 08. I mean, we were there, me and the other new TFO in the back, but it was motivating. It's like, man,
yeah,
that's what we want to do.
That's right.
That's awesome.
It is motivating.
But you know, it was the power of that was I was working with my agency, Garland. I decoyed for that dog. I knew that dog. I knew that handler. I knew they were in odor. I knew they went down that alley. And that took us to that area. And I saw the head come up. We're looking around. So this guy's here. Thermal anomaly in the trash can. Man, we got to give that a look, right? So it was the coming together of a lot of those things that we talk about. Another TFO that didn't have that experience of that dog work. That's why I'm such an advocate of TFOs understanding police canine work.
Too.
So that's what made that come together. It was the phenomenal work of the canine team that actually, you know, kind of put that together.
Yeah. But I don't know how many times I told pilots, you know, stand by. We're about to find this guy. And they go, how do you know? I'm just looking at the dog. You know, I'm just reading the dog. And then I explained it to him later. Well, I was reading the dog. The dog was alerting. What does that look like? Well, it depends on, you know, and I try to educate them. And they go, wow. And then, which led to a canine class because we were on the same page there that it's so important to know about your customers. Just like a SWAT guy. Is it good to know about SWAT tactics as a TFO? Yes, it is, because you're going to be over it. You might see something and understand something differently if you understand their tactics and what they like and what they don't like. And the way you do that is by having conversations with them and doing some training. But the canine one was really obvious to me because I just left there. You know, I was a canine handler Friday, and now on Monday I'm in a helicopter looking at canine searches from, you know, up above. And it was just easy to see the correlation, the things that I had learned. It was easy to see. But we have to continue the trash can joke.
It'll go on forever.
Yeah. At lunchtime, we'll tell you the whole story from a certain part of the country that made fun of me about trash cans.
Yeah, as you said, trash can. I look at these two.
There we go.
We start laughing. But what you started to get into was this crash you're responding to, and how that weather and the crash of that aircrew impacted your viewpoint of weather and safety. Can you talk about that and how that's impacted you to today?
Yeah, I mean, just the overall, you know, CRM, your decision making in weather. You know, that one event was a traumatic experience, and obviously it made a significant impact on my memory, and that's just something you never want to see again in your aviation career if you can prevent it. But such an easily preventable crash, and that's what we responded to and had to go find. But the TFO in Houston for a year and a half, and then it never got going to a full speed station while I was there, and the opportunity to promote the pilot came up, and now I can control my own pace in the right seat. And so I went to McAllen, which is our Rio Grande Valley duty station, South Texas. And at that point, when I got down to McAllen, by the time I got my helicopter rating, because at the time it was a helicopter-only station, I was a rookie helicopter pilot, 400 hours, and they gave me an A-star and said, go find bad guys. And I think it was right at 2,000 hours, at just a little over 2 years down there. And, yeah, it was wheels were off.
Wow,
I mean,
jeez.
Yeah, it was.
What was the driving factor behind that down there?
It was border security. It was one of the 6 border stations that we had, and at that time the border was just kind of ramping up a little, but it wasn't the center of anyone's attention. And I feel like the guys we had down there, including me being a rookie that just wanted to fly 8 hours a day because that's what we were limited to. I would have done more, but it was here's the keys to the helicopter, go forth and do well. And we started that's where our significant activity report came about. And, aircraft, before this time, we were just a responsive division in the department. And once we started showing these videos and taking pictures and these little quick paragraphs of what we were doing, and we were doing multiple a day, and we just started sending them to the division chiefs and the colonels, and then it led on to some commissioners, and now we got legislators getting these emails forwarded to them. And before we know it, DPS aircraft, now we're on the map, and we're saving the world down in the Rio Grande Valley, Texas. And funding came from those significant activity reports. SARS is what we called them. And, then we started having operations that we would get a raft coming over loaded with dope. And, those little Kingfisher air up rafts? Well, we have Operation Kingfisher is formed. And Texas Rangers are coming down there with their special operations group. And now we're camping out in the woods, watching the river. We're setting up sensors, and now it's just blown up, and now we can't stop it. Now a lot of people are doing reports about the border, and now we're expanding to Laredo. And, I can't remember all the operational names, but this was a Texas Ranger aircraft operations at the time. And within a couple of years, now the department is putting on operations. And then we have Texas Military Division coming down there and helping us. And now we're just off the races. And now it's never slowed down. Wow. Yeah.
I want to, in a minute, I know the border issue for some reason has become political over the years. And without getting political, I want to ask, for an update and kind of give us an idea of what the border's done to you guys operationally, how that's dragged resources down there, and how you've supported that. But before I do that, I want to talk about the reports that you sent up, because I think it's really important. As you're describing that, I think of these different agencies that have been successful over the course of their operational career, if you will, and they're all doing what you're describing. They're all sharing this information that they're a part of with the higher ups. These reports go to division captains, to command staff, up to city hall even at times, or county, wherever you're working. Can you talk about what those reports look like for you guys now and how you disseminate the information that's being done by your air crews?
Thanks to our sponsor, Garmin. The Garmin GI-275 digital flight instrument is now approved for MD-500 helicopters, giving operators the ideal upgrade option for replacing obsolete mechanical gauges with reliable solid-state electronics. Get details at garmin.com/GI-275heli.
Yeah, it all started out with, if you don't have pictures, the video didn't happen. And it was always a little competition between us and, some of the Texas Rangers, because, we're better than them, they're better than us, and we got to prove it. And it starts off by, we knew that we were burning through funds. We were burning through maintenance cycles, and we were like, man, we need to start justifying what we're doing. And these pictures and these short paragraphs were just showing everybody how bad it was down there at the time. And we didn't even realize it as a department, I don't think, at the time, because it wasn't a focal point at DPS before 2009 and 10, from what I can recall. And once these pictures were going out, now they were opening people's eyes as to what, number one, what's going on down there, and number two, how effective the aircraft division is being. And what I tell some other agencies when they're trying to grow their program is I ask them, man, do you have something like this? Because, it's kind of a blur to me, but this is how we got on the map. And we weren't much prior to this. And I don't know, no, we don't, actually. I was like, this what you just did last night with the 7-Eleven thieves and y'all knocked down, you need to be taking snapshots, a 10-second clip footage, and you need to send it to your boss, and your boss needs to send it to his boss, and then you need the city council to see it after that at the next city council meeting. There needs to be some kind of presentation. And, I can't emphasize that enough when it comes to getting your name and all the good work you're doing. The taxpayers want to know what their tax dollars are going to, and if it's making their communities safer or taking bad guys off the street with a helicopter, that's what needs to be done. And, I think we've we've learned the lesson in several of our stations. You know, we're building a hangar here in McKinney, and it's the good work that all these surrounding agencies are seeing us help them with, and it's these photos that are getting out. And that's I don't think these agencies realize how important these photos are.
Well, back in 04, 05, I distinctly remember getting a VCR from my house. We strapped it in the back of a BA because I said, if we can show this to the right people, they'll get it. You can talk about it all you want, but if you can show the Mark Gassaway, RIP, Aero Computers, right? You can show this technology, they'll understand why it's expensive. So we started recording flights, and then the chief pilot was Jack Reichert, and got invited to come present before some important representatives and stuff, and we brought this video. Their jaw was on the floor. They said, we had no idea that you guys are doing this stuff. And the next year in 07, we bought 5 brand new AS350 B2s and a BK117, EC145. That all came out of that, almost doubled our fleet in 1 year. And I'm not beating my chest on that, but I'm trying to confirm you have got to get it out there what you're doing.
And you got to keep doing it.
Yes.
People leave, people retire, people promote. You can't stop. Once you start, you got to keep it going. And because that's what you are. That's who you are. That's what's the tax dollars getting spent on, and you got to keep showing it to people.
When I was in Ontario, we're one small unit, 12 people in a 60 square mile city, and my responsibility at the time was to write the week's activity report and then a monthly activity report based on what you guys are talking about. And I was shocked, even on the weekly activity reports, about all the good work that these different air crews. There's only 3 different air crews. And the 2 that I'm like, I didn't know you guys did that this during this month or this week. I was always blown away. So to extrapolate that to the size of your guys' state and all the operations that you guys are a part of, it's got to be really interesting and motivating to read all the incidents that you guys have been a part of each month. How do you figure out essentially which ones you're going to push forward and what not to?
It's funny you ask that, because at one of our last staff meetings, I kind of wanted it to get out to the area captains that this started for a reason. It was significant activity report. Everything we do is significant. If the helicopter's responding, a police helicopter, it's probably going to be a big deal. But every morning I'm waking up to 4 to 6 significant activity reports, and then some more during the day and some more that night. So I'm like, guys, if it doesn't make you say, man, that is freaking awesome, then, man, let's scale it back just a little bit, or we're going to lose the awe factor in our SARS. It needs to make somebody just, oh, wow, that is amazing, because, everything we do is amazing. I mean, it's great. But if we want to maintain the integrity of the significance of these reports, then we need to make sure it's going to make somebody, it's going to give them the wow factor.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
So it's a lot. It's Clay likes to type case reports on some of his, and I'm a too long didn't read kind of guy. So, man, we need to
see what I deal with.
we need to slim him down just a little bit, because if I'm a too long didn't read guy, man, the regional director is too. Probably some of the commissioners are too. They don't have an hour to read Clay's case reports. But,
Clay's so detailed. He'll probably spend like an hour and a half writing Mark an email about whatever it is, bullet points, spelled grammar, everything, triple check. He'll send it to Mark. Mark will send it back TLDR.
And I got to call him and say, Clay, I saw your email. Can you tell me what you said real quick?
Watch Clay's head lift off.
I think it was Michigan we interviewed, and what they're doing is interesting. They're actually sending video clips up through the chain of command, and I think that was genius. If you guys are doing that, give me some insight on what you're doing and how you're sending that through.
Well, it's with Earthscape, our video management system. We started talking to them like, how can we do this? Because my guys, I recognize that the videos where the magic is. The stills are great, but I needed to be able to showcase these TFOs, tactical chest articulation. I mean, they're just doing phenomenal work. I needed to be able to find a way to do that. So we started talking to them like, hey, we need to find a way to just do video clips. Like I want to showcase how they found this guy. And then I want to showcase the plan they made and then how they executed that plan. And so now what we do is we embed video links with our little short narrative. And, I mean, I get so many compliments. The CID major, like, man, me and my wife wake up every morning, and we watch these in bed before we drink our coffee. You know, this is awesome. So, you know, and you got senators and
what's made that incredible is, you know, Tom's company there at Shotover, ARS, the metadata that we have now coming out of those cameras in that aircraft. If you can put it to full use, now you have this wonderful moving map on the playback next to the IR imagery, and that city councilman goes, oh, they're right off of Maple. I know where that is. It brings it all much closer. So when you go back and say, hey, we need to buy a new replacement, you know, moving map system, it's however much money, they go, oh, yeah, they have to have that. I've seen that before. So that metadata in there, so it makes me crazy, a lot of agencies that don't record, because I'm like, you're missing a tremendous, if nothing else, PR of the great things you're doing.
Yeah. It's different to read about an incident than it is to actually view it. You know, and that, I mean, the evidentiary value of that stuff is great, but the PR stuff, you know, what we're getting behind that's even better in a lot of ways, you know, because it's, like you said, justifying a lot of these purchases and these desires we have to make these programs and systems better, you know. So I love that you guys are doing that. That's huge. I hope to see that become a trend in the industry. Is, you know, I think Digital Airware, I think, is coming up with a way to embed that within their reporting system, so you can send that through. Are you guys using Digital Airware?
We do, and it's coming. We've explored some of that technology, so I think we'll be implementing it soon, I would imagine.
And then also what it does too is it kind of creates this catalog of training videos that new TFOs can come in and be like, hey, these are all really good. You know, I know they are because they're a part of the significant activity reports. And now I've got this catalog. I'm like, okay, just go sit and look at these significant ones. It's not hard to find them. You know, they're right there. So a lot of value in those videos. And I will have to say, I love that you did that. I love that you either listened to or watched the videos that he was a part of. I think a lot of new TFOs don't take full advantage of even YouTube videos that exist, you know, going on there and listening to the way folks are broadcasting information and stuff like that. So good on you for that. Do want to go back to the border. It's, you know, it's an interest of mine. I think every time I see Clay, I'm bugging. I'm like, what's going on down there? Because we don't hear much about it, and it's shocking to me based on what I do know when I get updates. So can you kind of give us an update of what's happening currently down there and how that's impacted your guys' agency?
So, I mean, historically, we'll call it the last, 4 or 5 years. It's been the mission of our governor to secure the Texas portion of the border, which is 1,250 miles ish of Mexico border on Texas, and it has historically been out of control. We're the first state to feel the impact of it. As much as we try to advertise, it's flowing through us. The word, for whatever reason, it doesn't get out to a lot of people up north, and it hasn't been a significant issue in the country. Our governor recognized it. We see the crime, the gangs, you got diseases, you got children being trafficked. That we've seen every bit of it that comes over the border, and so the governor wanted to stop it. He uses his political, perspectives to get the word out and to assist and to recruit these other states to come down and assist us. And that's what we've done. As a department, we have, temporary duty deployed almost every division down there for the last 4 or 5 years. And I say 4 or 5 years, it's been on and off since 2008 from what I can remember. And I went down there as a TFO into Laredo, and the wheels were off back in 2008 to 2015. I mean, we were chasing rafts every 10 minutes full of dope, full of people, and they were running, and it was nonstop. It slowly trended up and down throughout the years. The past 2 months, we're looking for work. We are the collaboration, the teamwork, the partnerships that we've always had for all these years with Border Patrol and AMOC, Air Marine Operations. Now we're working together and having fun working together. We're not pulling the federal resources out to play, man, they're out there with us because they want to be and because they can be now. And it's made a huge impact on what's coming across the border. We can now focus our state resources on the crime that has come over, but now it has infiltrated our big cities, and now we're kind of focused on helping them round up these criminals that have come across, and we're focusing on the violent crime these gangs are committing in our cities, and which is what the Texas Department of Public Safety is. That's what we always were supposed to do. Border security was really never in our mission until the last several years, but it has definitely been one of our priorities, and that's per the governor. I mean, that's all the way down. So
it's wild to me because what was happening at the border. I'm in Southern California, so we're seeing it too. It impacts everybody because you go to a local hospital. That local hospital's ER is impacted because all those folks are coming across and finding their way to the local hospital to get medical care they've never had before. So our local hospital has, for the last 4 or 5 years, had what would have been an emergency tent set up outside to increase the capacity for the emergency room. It's not temporary; it's been permanent for the last 4 or 5 years. So everybody that has to go into the ER, it's going to be a significant amount of time before you're seen, because of the impacts we're seeing as a result of that. So the fact that it's impacted so many people and it's gotten so little attention is just mind-blowing to me. For you guys, from a resource standpoint, what did that do to you guys? You're having to pull people down from other areas. How do you operate, and how do you deploy assets without impacting the rest of the operations? Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Hangar Z podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe to hear more stories that promote the personnel and equipment behind the missions in public safety aviation. Lastly, stand by for a message after a word from our sponsors. Cheers.
Thanks to our sponsor, Garmin. The Garmin GI-275 digital flight instrument is now approved for MD-500 helicopters, giving operators the ideal upgrade option for replacing obsolete mechanical gauges with reliable solid-state electronics. Get details at garmin.com/GI-275heli. Thank you to our sponsor, Wysong Enterprises. Wysong Enterprises offers specialty rotorcraft completion facility, focusing on solutions and installs for customers in various industries, including EMS, law enforcement, energy utility, forestry, tourism, security, and corporate applications across major OEM platforms. Visit us at wysongusa.com.
Thank you to our sponsor, BLR Aerospace. BLR Aerospace's revolutionary fast fin system improves performance and enhances safety across various helicopter platforms. This cutting-edge aftermarket solution improves tail rotor effectiveness, stability, and payload capacity while reducing fuel consumption and pilot fatigue. Trusted globally, FastFin delivers unmatched control, efficiency, and reliabilities for diverse helicopter operations. Learn more at blraerospace.com. Thank you for tuning into this special episode of the Hangar Z podcast, brought to you by Vertical Helicast in partnership with Vertical Valor magazine. We've enjoyed sharing the stories of Texas DPS and the incredible work they do supporting public safety across the state. Our time with Texas DPS highlights the vital importance of strong leadership, positive unit culture, ongoing training, and effective internal marketing like detailed reports and video documentation that showcase achievements and secure critical funding for their aircraft operations. A huge thank you to our partners Airbus and Massif Flight Suits, as well as Sky Helicopters, and everyone else involved in the making of the Blades of Valor Tour.